Hi, welcome back to the Indie Wine Podcast. My name is Matt Wood, and this is episode 3, By the Way Festival. This time we'll be focusing on the By the Way Festival, which is held in Richmond, California, semi-regularly, every 6 months or so. All the wineries that pour are 0.0 natural wineries, so nothing added and nothing taken away. The festival takes place at the Study Wine Bar, which is also home to the cooperative winery that many of the producers work out of. One unique thing about the festival is that the wines are all available to purchase. On this episode, we'll hear from winemakers from Wild Jag, General Psychotic Activity, Gearhead, and Everwild. Some of the others pouring at this version of By the Way that we unfortunately did not get a chance to interview, not yet anyways, are Subject to Change, Tai, Miscreant, Miles Garrett, Hovik, and more. This is a great casual festival with a DJ who you might catch in the background of some of these interviews while they were warming up, along with unlimited pours, souvenir glass, food vendors, and some other small businesses. Noel will also make an appearance in this episode discussing some aspects of the festival. So first up is Adam of Wild Jag. Adam makes Carignan, Pinot Gris, Azin and Cherry, Piquette Petnat, extended maceration French Colombard, and also started working with some Mission grapes in 2022. He makes his wine here in Richmond, and you can follow Adam at Wild Jag on Instagram.
I'm Adam. I make Wild Jag wine out of this space here at the Purity Wine Space and Study Wine Bar in Richmond, and making 0.0 wine.
Great. What year did you start the winery in? What was your first harvest?
So I made wine at home, like first fruit wines and then some like wine from grapes off of Craigslist for like a year and a half, and then been here since 2020 was my first vintage year.
Okay.
Or no, in 2019. I don't know.
Okay, that's okay.
Sorry.
It's all good. Is there a type of grape you're concentrating on? An area? What thrills you?
Not necessarily. I definitely tend to gravitate to the less than typical varietals. Like I'm not really interested in like Pinot Noir or Cabernet or Chardonnay or something like that. But I think mostly for me, it's just like I really like wine, and the way I learn is by doing. So I wanted to know more about wine, and so I'm just trying to like figure out what makes it so cool.
Nice.
Yeah.
So what are you pouring today? You have a Old Vine Carignan?
Yeah.
Okay.
Old Vine Carignan Rosé. This is Sunset Days. It's a Pinot Gris. This is a small batch of stuff I just kind of made for myself, but I liked it so much that I'm gonna bring it. It's called Cherry Bomb. It's a cherry and Zinfandel. And then I have a red that we're still pulling out that's Syrah and Carignan.
Syrah and Carignan? Okay.
Yeah.
You co-ferment it, or
those
was blended
blend them
after?
Right, blended at barreling. So
Okay.
and that's more of like a lighter one.
Okay. What's your general fermentation regime? Is it more whole cluster, destemmed?
It depends. Sometimes I destem. Usually it's whole cluster. It really depends. I don't know.
Yeah.
It depends on the grape. Like right now I'm doing like an extended maceration, but I've also done a lot of like quick macerations and carbonic and stuff like that. So,
Okay.
yeah.
The Piquette, so that was your Zin skins?
Yeah,
and then,
Zin skins with
then some
actual cherries.
Okay.
To, like kind of bring up the sugar, but then it ended up tasting more like cherries than Zin. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great. Anything you're like excited for the future, or planning on?
I have a lot of wines that I'm interested in. Like I mentioned, the French Colombard, that's extended maceration. I get to work with Mission this year, which is like a grape I've wanted to work with since I first started learning about wine.
Yeah.
Just that's about it. I don't know.
Okay.
Just a small little dude making wine.
Yes. It's a great way to do it. What areas are you usually working with for vineyard sources?
Yeah, usually it's definitely got to be within driving distance,
Sure.
like a decent drive for me. But a lot of them are from Lodi, some from like Fremont and things like that. But mostly
Okay.
Lodi, some Mendocino.
Okay.
Next, we have General Psychotic Activity, which is run by 4 friends, Laura, Francesca, Nick, and Justin. They're based in LA, but make their wine in Richmond. They make a still Pinot Gris, Carignan, Pinot Gris Pet Nat, as well as an orange wine and a light red wine. You can follow them at General Psychotic Activity on Instagram.
So it's called General Psychotic Activity, and there's 4 of us. We are from LA, but we make wine up here in Richmond out of the Purity Wines facility. And it kind of came out of the pandemic. We were drinking a lot of natural wine, and then one of the 4 of us said, wouldn't it be cheaper if we made our own? And the truth is, it's not cheaper if you just make your own, but
we try to get high on our own supply, and we do.
Yeah, it's a hell of a lot more fun.
Cost effective as we thought.
Yeah, it is a lot more fun this way though, doing something with your friends.
Sure.
What
yeah.
types of wine are you generally making? You have certain grapes or certain areas that you concentrate
Yeah,
in?
so this is our 2nd year. The first year we only did 2 tons. We did a ton of Carignan and a ton of Pinot Gris. And our very first wine that we put out was a Pinot Gris Pet Nat, and that seems to have been the most popular so far.
Okay.
So we've made it again for year 2. But for year 2, we've scaled up to 5 tons. And so we got Muscat.
Almost 6 with the apple.
Yeah, that's true. It's almost 6 with apple as well. But so we got Albarino, Muscat, Pinot Gris again,
Cab Sauv,
Zinfandel, Cab Sauv,
Chenin,
and Chenin.
and
Okay.
apples.
And then some apple juice.
Yeah.
Where are your vineyard sources?
So we got the Albarino and Muscat from Lodi. That was through Noel here at Purity. If he's bringing in something, he'll say, I've got 20 tons of this, who wants some? And we'll put our hand up for a half ton, full ton, whatever. And then the rest we sourced ourselves through Wine Biz.
Yeah, they're
Kind of
from
asking
all over
around. Yeah.
Central and Northern California, just sort of like where we find nice organic grapes from varietals that we're interested in making wine with. I think the point is like keep it Californian, keep it as sustainable practice as possible, and like make it drinkable, approachable wine.
Okay.
We want to, we don't want to make like super expensive or super, labor intensive or fancy stuff. It's more about like, what can we do that feels good to share with your friends? At a point that feels comfortable, like spending money on it and enjoying it on like a beach day or like a Tuesday pasta night or, even like a Friday night before you go out,
Yeah.
This was like born out of camaraderie, and I think, continues to support that cause.
Yeah. Like the cool thing about the natural wine community is that it very much is like this community that everyone's sharing resources and stuff. So yeah, after year 1, it was a lot easier to find connects. Even the Pinot Gris, like we tried so hard to find Pinot Gris this year, and it was literally like someone heard there was a spare like couple tons, and we grabbed what we could.
Exactly. And our final ton was actually not supposed to be Cabernet Sauvignon. It was supposed to be like a Bordeaux blend. And two of my teammates came up, to go get the grapes, bring them back. And the owner of the vineyard sent us a bunch of photos and was like, well, it rained 2 days ago and now there's mold on all the grapes. So it's your call. You can back out if you want. And we were like, oh God, here we are. We're SOL. We're already up here. What do we do? And our neighbors next door are subject to change. We're like, got a lot of Cabernet Sauvignon. We could totally sell you a ton if you want it. 2 days later, we had a ton of Cab Sauv in the building, which was really, really like, what a lifesaver. Really, really like generous that they just offered to, pawn something off on us and do the extra labor and all that. So yeah, without the team here, we would not be able to do any of this. So it's awesome to be a part of this community.
That's awesome. So then you stay mostly up here during harvest, and then
so after
couple
this
weeks.
weekend, we'll have everything kind of goes away for a longer sleep. We've got to disgorge a bunch of pet nat, but thankfully we have big cars, so we'll bring some down back to LA and do it down there. And then everything else is in barrels, so chills out for a while.
Yeah.
We'll come back in the new year probably and check on everything.
Yeah.
But yeah, we all have like crazy full-time jobs. So the fact that we pull off like 6 tons of wine and are able to like make it and sell it is a feat in itself. But it's awesome to be here and that's awesome to do it with like a great team.
We're going to take a short break from the festival grounds and hear Noelle from Purity Wines discuss the origins of the festival and some of the other details that make it unique. You can follow Purity Wine at Purity Wine on Instagram. And Noelle makes Pinot Gris, Pinot Noir, Viognier, Gewürztraminer, and Apple Coferment, Verdelho, Sauvignon Blanc, Syrah, Zin, Merlot, and also an Amaro. You can also hear much more from Noelle in episode 2 of the podcast if you missed it. I would just love to get your thoughts on By the Way and how it started and the idea behind it. If you foresee it going anywhere different or changing in any ways. I know you said you thought it was the best one yet.
This one that was
most
just
recent one.
Yeah, this last weekend. I think it was a week ago today. It was very successful. We sold almost 200 tickets. We sell tickets for $30. It started a couple of years back, kind of like tying in with Brumaire, which is Ordinaire's fair. And I found that Brumaire was really fun. It was a great experience, but it was, they are so popular that the place would be just packed. I don't know how many tickets they sell, but it would be packed. And I thought maybe we could help alleviate a little stress by doing an off Brumaire. And I asked Bradford, the owner of Ordinaire, if he was okay with us doing an off Brumaire, and he said, sure. Not only that, but I'll put it in our little newsletter or something like, he'd email it out to people, and we did that. And really, it was so to feature both our friends, our natural winemaking friends in the community, and our winemakers and us, and to bring people in and show them the collective. It was kind of like a creative way of getting a little interest in the space, but to do it in a way that, again, everybody could benefit. And we did that, and that was just before COVID hit. We were actually, Brumaire and By the Way, we did it on the weekend before the entire shutdown 3 years ago or whatever.
Okay.
And yeah,
By the skin of your teeth.
we barely made it.
Yeah.
And so we did that, and it was a pretty decent. We did well by it, and we were happy with it. And then it was the idea of like continuing to do it, and people kept asking if we were going to do another one, and so then we did another one when we were coming out of COVID, and this was now our 4th, By the Way, and we've kind of been doing maybe 2 a year. We're not sure if we're going to continue with 2 a year, but we did one in the spring and then one in the fall. And initially, I was taking the money from the tickets and giving it back to the winemakers because I didn't want to be, not only did I didn't want to either be seen or I didn't want to be making money. That's not how I make a living. And I didn't want to make money on people donating their wine. And because of the permits that we have, winemakers are able to sell at the fair. And I've never been at a fair where I was able to sell. And I thought that was a really good point. So we were giving ticket money back to the winemakers to kind of stipend them for coming here and for the wine that they were donating. And that was working well. And then at some point, when we moved here in 2017, we did a fundraiser. This was right when we moved in with the 5 winemakers. It was in the co-op, not the collective. And I wanted to throw up a fundraiser because we were having fires up in Sonoma, I think. And I wanted for the farm workers, because people talked about the farmers, but nobody was really talking about the farm workers. And a lot of those people were having problems when they were displaced from their homes, and they were worried that ICE was going to hassle them, if not deport them, just hassle them. Mm-hmm. They didn't know who to go to, what to do. We raised $5,000 for them, and that was something I wanted to continue to do. So at some point, I turned to Barry, my wife, and I said, you know what? I'm feeling really distraught about what's happening in Ukraine, and this is what happened 5 years before when I was feeling distraught about what was happening to the displaced farm workers. And when we moved in here, I'd wanted to do some things that were like that. I mean, I like to say philanthropic because it's funny when you think of philanthropy, you think of wealthy people. We're not wealthy. We're not poor. We're not wealthy. But I would never have thought of myself, my parents were migrant farm workers. I worked summers in high school picking fruit. I would never think that I'd ever be able to be a philanthropist. But all of a sudden I thought I can have a structure where we can give money to causes. So we talked to the winemakers in the spring this year's spring, by the way, and I said, can we repurpose the money that we were going to give you? You can still sell wine. And because I saw that people were doing well in the wine sales. You can still sell wine, but can we use the money for Ukraine? And we did it for displaced families and for LGBTQ community. And it felt good, but anytime you send a check away, it's hard to have that causal relationship of doing good, right? If you give somebody some money and you can see something, that's one thing. If you send the check away, and you're like, well, we gave this to a nonprofit and hopefully it did some good. We trusted it did some good. We did some research. We had our friends help us with who would be good to give money to. And that's what we did. And this time on this fair, we raised about $4,500. We do take out, like, we have to pay for DJs, we have to pay for some help. So we do take that out of the money, but we don't take any money for ourselves. And I think we raised about $4,500 that is going to go. I said, why don't we, because we have kids in school, why don't we, every time we go to any event, they pass the hat around. I said, why don't we go to some schools in Richmond? We haven't given any money to Richmond. We have our business here, and it's a socioeconomically dynamic community. It's a huge community, and generally people think of it as a ghetto, and it's really not. And I said, why don't we go to a school, talk to some teachers, see what we can give them. What do you need? 100 boxes of crayons? Do you need soccer balls? Do you need volleyball nets? Like, what can we do that we can actually make a change? I don't have hundreds of thousands of dollars to really make a difference, but at least we can do something where we can say, this is the thing that these schools needed that we gave them, that were beyond what the state is going to give them. Because the state's going to provide you with the minimum amount. But every time we go in, it's like, can we get music, sheet music stands? So I thought, let's do that. We're going to try that this year. We're going to see how it goes. But from now on, definitely, by the way, is a fundraiser. And we want to make something that we can share with our community so that we can feel like we are doing something positive, that we are giving back to the community.
Coming next, we have Craig from Gearhead Wines. Craig makes lots of pet nats. That's exclusively what he was pouring at this By the Way festival. One made of Muscat, another of Viognier. You can follow Craig at Gearhead Wines on Instagram.
Yeah, my name's Craig from Gearhead Wines. Welcome.
What was the first vintage of Gearhead?
Well, I actually started in my garage in 2016. I made a small lot of wine.
What?
12 cases.
12 cases, okay. What grape were you working with?
It was Grenache and Syrah that I got from Noel.
Okay.
Yeah, and it was pretty fun, stumbling around, trying to figure it all out.
How many cases are you up to now? More than 12, most likely.
Yeah, a few more than 12. I think I'm at 1,200.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
We'll just use that as a...
Yeah, around that.
Yeah, something like
and
that.
Are you all 0-0?
All
with your
0-0.
wines?
All
Okay.
0-0. I've been since 17. My first vintage in my garage, I sulfured because I didn't know any better.
Sure.
And then from 17 on, I've been 0-0.
What grapes are you working with mostly, and in what areas?
Right now, at the moment.
Right now, or historically is okay too?
Yeah, so the last vintage, it's Cabernet Sauvignon, Viognier, Muscat, Albarino, and Chardonnay, and well, I think that's about it. Colombar too.
And Colombar.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. And just kind of all over California.
Yeah.
You know, Lodi, Mendocino, Hollister,
Okay.
Bulkamai, vineyards I work with.
Have your wines changed at all in the style since you started?
Absolutely, absolutely, they've changed. The first year was all traditional. My second year was all traditional, and then I happened to be here in the beginning, and it was a bunch of really big I consider big winemakers, and then I learned a lot of stuff from the people here. And one in particular, Chad Hines from Method Sauvage, he was doing a lot of carbonic maceration.
Mm-hmm.
And he would do a lot of tonnage, but I'd never see him. And I was like, hey, how do you do that? Like, and then he kind of showed me what he does. And I kind of liked his style of his wines were very fruit forward and and so I started to do some carbonic. And now I'm probably 80% carbonic. Yeah. And
Okay.
maybe 20 of a little bit of both. Maybe some traditional and some carbonic,
Okay.
but mostly carbonic. Yeah.
And for the whites, are you generally pressing, or are you doing those carbonic?
Yeah, I do.
Also, or juice.
My
or-
sweet spot is 14 days carbonic.
Okay.
I let it go for 14 days, press it. And if I can, I'll make pet net if it's still within range. And if not, it will just turn into either a white or a red still wine. I do make still wine too, but I make a lot of pet net.
A lot of pet nat.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. And I'll be pouring all pet net today.
Oh, all pet nat today.
All white pet net.
So those are generally about 14-day.
Yeah,
Carbonic,
yeah,
and then-
press,
and then press them and-
wait for 1.5 or in that range somewhere. I'm not too particular as long as it doesn't go over 2. I usually don't bottle at 2.
Okay.
I think it's a little.
A little too much.
Well,
Don't want to blow
it
up.
can be. You can, depending on what variety it is, it can get really active. And no matter how cold you get it, the key is to get it as cold as you can without freezing it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And we disgorge I disgorge everything by hand. Every bottle that is mine, I probably disgorged it.
Okay.
Yeah, or somebody helped me here. Yeah.
Sure. Have you always disgorged the pet nats?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Anything for the future, or ways that you're any new vineyards or anything?
Not really, but one of my styles of making wine is I try not to have too many plans ahead of time, because I feel like it can be the starting of a lot of disappointment. So what I do is when the fruit comes in, I start to make decisions. If I'm going to co-ferment it, if I have something else that came in at close to the same time. And I like to co-ferment whites and reds, or whites and whites, or reds and reds. It doesn't matter. But I like to get them together early as possible.
Okay.
And so next year, depending on, I don't have a bunch of shit written down on the blackboard going, I'm going to make, because I don't like to make wine. For me, making wine is kind of a free thing. And, having a recipe or something like that is kind of not my gig. I like to let it go wherever it's going to go.
Sure.
And have it come about when the time comes.
Are you co-fermenting with any other fruits ever, or grapes?
I messed around with some pears this year, but I haven't even checked in on it. It's just sitting in a tank. I'm just I did some apple cider last year, but that stuff kind of doesn't really turn me on that much. It's not
like the grapes.
Well, like I like apple cider, but I don't go out and buy apple cider. It's not I'd rather have a nice bottle of Gamay or something like that than I'm not a real cider guy, or any fruit wine. It's kind of not my gig.
Okay.
Yeah. But I can appreciate people that do, it's just, I don't know. I think there's so much thinking involved with that.
Okay.
Yeah. I try to keep it simple.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you for your time. I appreciate
You're welcome.
it. Yeah.
I hope you have a great day today.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm interested.
Should be fun.
And last but not least, as the festival was starting, I spoke with Austin of Everwild Wines. Austin and his partner Talia run Everwild together. Talia wasn't available for the interview because she had to be pouring as the festival was starting. They make Muscat, Syrah, Grenache, some skin contact whites. They work from some great vineyard sites like Chalone at Rodnick Farm. You can follow them on Instagram at Everwild Wines.
Attendees, 5 minutes to showtime.
So it is 5 minutes. All right.
I'm Austin Hobart. My winery is Everwild Wines. That I make the wines with my partner Talia.
Right. And how long have you been making them for?
This is we just got over our 3rd vintage.
Okay.
Yeah.
And are you making them here?
Yeah,
with
we
the
make our wines here in the
Okay.
purity space. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice.
You can say that again.
Huh? This guy.
Need clean audio.
We're not gonna get clean audio. We'll do what we can. What type of wines are you generally making? What's your sort of wheelhouse?
Yeah, so all our wines are all natural wines. They're 0.0, so we don't add anything. The only component to the wines is the grapes themselves. There's no sulfur. We don't filter. There's no fining. And same thing with the vineyards. The only thing we allow them to spray is sulfur, but they all have to be organic practices and restorative practices.
Where are most of your vineyard sources? Are you sourcing from all around California, or do you have kind of an area that you're generally working in?
Yeah, so we source our grapes from all over California. We have vineyards that we work with in the Sierra Foothills and Mendocino, all the way down to Chalone. We've gone all the way down to
In that area,
I forget.
Hollister?
Yeah, but Chalone, Sierra Foothills, a lot in Sierra Foothills, and then
Okay.
also in Mendocino, and then Contra Costa County. We have some
Okay.
vineyards here too.
Nice. What grapes are you usually working with?
So in Contra Costa County, we work with Verdelho. And this will be our third year working with
Get that
Verdelho.
from Tom?
Tom's Vineyard,
Okay.
yeah, Tom
Yeah,
Morgan.
okay.
Chardonnay from Malonis. Down in Chalone, we work with Rodnick, and we get quite a few varieties from him.
Okay.
We get Syrah, Mourvedre, Chenin. What else do we get? Grenache. Yeah.
What's your fermentation sort of regime tend to be? Are you mostly whole cluster or carbonic or destemming or kind of switch it up?
So the process changes based on the wine and what we're trying to accomplish with the wine. Typically, a lot of it's whole cluster maceration. Verdelho is a good example. That's a 30-day maceration. Same thing. We have a blend of Muscat and Chardonnay. That the Muscat's 2 weeks whole cluster maceration, and the Chardonnay is half carbonic, half whole cluster maceration for 3 weeks. So a lot of our stuff is heavier structure-wise, but we do have some stuff like we have a Grenache from Rodnick that's destemmed and very lightly tread. So we started to do more direct press, but we don't do a lot of direct press. Yeah.
Okay. So most of your whites have a little skin contact.
Yeah,
in-
all our
with them.
whites
Okay.
have some degree of maceration on them.
Okay.
And part of that's because we don't pitch yeast, and so just to create a stronger fermentation, we're just trying to build a stronger.
Right, get those nutrients from the
Exactly.
skins and everything. Anything you're excited about from this last harvest? Anything tasting especially good, kind of
Yeah.
out of the tank, or
Yeah, I mean, like it's very early. We got some Riesling from Madeira that we're very stoked about. That's a white wine that is tasting really good. We got a GSM we made from Rodnick. That's really good. What else is tasting good? There's a special vineyard that we make a Syrah Viognier blend in the foothills. Sentinel is the vineyard.
Okay.
They're in Amador County. That's always really good. And this year, that vineyard got frosted. So the yield was really low. In fact, I think we brought in like under a quarter ton of Viognier,
okay.
and I think only a half ton of Syrah. We were supposed to get closer to 2 tons from the vineyard, and we ended up getting under a ton. But the wine tastes so good. The fermentation was so healthy and happy. It was just really nice to working with that fruit, even if we don't make much of it. And then we have a Chenin. We have a small little Chenin project that we want to age for 2 years. We try to do a long-term white project every year. Last year it was with Chardonnay, which is a really special wine, and this year we're doing it with Chenin, and that's tasting really good already. So we'll see if we make it to the 2-year mark.
So that you just give it 2 years of barrel age.
Yeah. Don't touch it. Yeah.
Okay. So no topping or
No topping.
anything.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. We don't top any of our wines, actually. I'd love to say it's aesthetic, but part of it's practical.
Sure. Life gets in the way.
Yeah.
too.
Well, I mean, just like excess wine and a lot of our stuff, gets spoken for, So then you kind of end up, and all our wines too are made in low amounts, like 72 case cuvee is a lot for us. Yeah.
Okay.
So.
What's your case production kind of sitting at?
Yeah, so we started in 2020 with 200 cases, and then we've doubled every year. So last year was 400, and this year we're looking closer to like 850 now.
Okay.
Yeah. So hopefully we'll get above, custom wines that we have a little bit more of.
Yeah. And mostly self-distributing, or like shops and restaurants, or
Yeah, so we're entirely self-distributed. We're sold in most of the natural wine bars here in the Bay Area and also LA. It's most of the ones I can think of. I'm sure there's more that I don't know about. Yeah, but all no distribution outside of the wine that we're our direct connections with the stores and with the we make our wine here, and then we live actually like 10 minutes away from here.
Thanks for listening to a little snapshot into the By the Way Festival. Hope you enjoyed hearing these short interviews with some of the producers. The money is always going to a great cause, and I think it's well worth your time and money to head over to Richmond and try it out next time you see it. Probably the best way to find out about the festival is to follow Purity Wine on Instagram. You can follow this podcast on wherever you're listening, and also the Instagram at Indie Wine Podcast for updates, or email indiewinepodcast@gmail.com. Next episode is with Chad Hines of Iroquois Wines, who after working in Richmond for a few years, moved his winery to the Shasta Cascade region of Siskiyou County. Thanks again. Have a good one.